Okay, there we go. Hi everyone, welcome to ACM-W. Today we're going to do a React workshop. We'll go ahead and go through these. Look at that beautiful flyer right there for this. All thanks to Gabriel. Big ups to Gabriel right there. All right, let me talk about a minute for what ACM-W is. ACM-W is a sub-organization under ACM, and it focuses on providing an inclusive environment for women in tech. It also creates open opportunities for everyone and anyone, no matter your background in STEM or computer science, whether you have one or not. And then if you are a new member and you want to register, here's the QR code right here. I can't see anything, so I'm going to assume everyone is registered. And then sign in. I know this will be a good time. I should probably sign in too. While we're here. Yeah, get that credit so you can go to the banquet. 7 meetings. And a shirt. And a certificate, you're right. And a stole if you're graduating. You got so many cool options. Looks like everyone is just about done signing in. If not, we can go back after. So we do have some upcoming meetings. On the 27th, we are having a Halloween social in room 1238 at 6 to 8. It'll be a really fun time. Halloween, spooky season. Spooky movie. I don't know what movie we're playing yet, but we'll decide soon. Okay, okay. And then on November the 10th, we are going to do a workshop in VR with Chris P. The location is to be determined, and it will be at the usual time of 4 to 5. And then if y'all want to become a junior officer for ACM-W, you can go ahead and use that QR code link right there. You can go ahead and gain experience if you're a JO, shadow an officer, expand your resume. That's really nice. Companies really look for leadership positions, so I would highly recommend. And there's no experience required. And then we do have a hackathon coming up, Code Quantum. This is for gender minorities in tech. So if you're a women, transgender, non-binary, you're welcome to participate as a hacker. If not, we are still looking for mentors and volunteers. If you want more information, please go to cqhacks.org. We have our co-director, one of them right here, Clarice. It's going to be a 25-hour hackathon because it is during daylight savings time, so you get to hack at 3 a.m. twice. What a good time. They'll feed you 5 full meals, so like what college student doesn't like free meals? And then they have really cool merch and swag. Also, a bunch of companies will be there, so like you might impress them, and it might land you an interview or a job offer, which has happened in the past. So go ahead and join for CQ. If you're not already registered, please register at cqhacks.org. You got it. All right, so we're going to be doing a React workshop today. Background on me, I'm Catherine Hogue. I'm ACM secretary, not ACM-W, my bad. During my internship in the summer, I did a lot of React, so that's why I'm up here, and also I'm a woman, so go team. So what React is, it's a JavaScript library for building interactive and fast user interface components. And then for React, building multiple independent components will create one single complex UI. JavaScript is the most popular library for building user interfaces. And then for React, the structure of like how it will work, it's like a tree. So you have a root component that we'll use and call the other child components under it. And then for local development, which we are not going to be doing today, but if you want, use your favorite IDE. I use Visual Studio Code. And then for React, you're going to want to have Node.js installed and NPM. And then you have the links for Node.js right there, and then to install npm, go ahead and use that command, npm install -g npm. And then to check and make sure that they're installed, do node-v for version, and then npm-v for version. And if it's not there, it will let you know, and then we can go ahead and get that fixed. And then I would recommend using Bootstrap and React Bootstrap for, if you're using React, they make everything look very pretty. We're not going to talk about that today because, a little too much for one day. But if you do want to go ahead and install it, you can go and use npm install react-bootstrap or npm install bootstrap. And then if you are doing a local, developing locally, you can go ahead and use, after you've installed npm and Node, you can do npx create-react-my-app. My app is just the title of like what your React app is going to be, so you can change that to whatever you want. And then go ahead and change directory into that app, and then npm start will get you running. So I do have what the, you can go ahead and, if you're on local, I'll show you this. You can do the create npx create-app, then we'll just do block. It's going to take a while to run, so I already did it earlier today. So this is what it will generate, this code right here, or this folder, my app. It will give you node modules, public, and a source folder. And then in that source is where you're going to find most of the code. So for app.js, you're going to see that you have a couple import statements here. Yeah, I got you. Give me 1 second. It's getting a little slow, but I'm trying. Is that better for y'all? Okay. And then if you did want to run it, you would do npm start, and then you have lots of tabs here. And then this will get your React app going and started. It will take a bit. I would recommend using the create, the React create app script, sorry. And then the first time it'll ask if you want to download the dependencies, please say yes. And then because I do have other things running, it's like, do you want to use it on another port? Please say yes, otherwise it'll overwrite whatever is on that port 300, which is what I'll use as a base. And then it will take us over here once it loads. And this is what you're going to get with that base code right there. You're going to get this nice spinning animated React logo, and then you're going to get this like nice little text, and then you can get a link to go learn React, which is to the React documents. Just show you that it works. Here's everything that you'll need if you ever have React. If not, Stack Overflow is always a good option. Okay. And then I'm just going to explain this code a little bit on like what's happening, what it does. So when you're running that code, it's going to look for the index.js file right here, and then it's looking for what it can do. So it's going to render this app, which is exported in this app.js file. And then in this app, it's much like HTML. So you have your divs, your headers, your images, your paragraph tags, everything like that. So here you have your logo, and then you have that paragraph right on the other side. Yeah, you have this, and then you have your link, which is linked here with that href, and then like what you want it to say on the like link. So go on React. And then CSS is also another part of React. It's basically just your style of what you're looking at. So for example, the app header, which is going to be everything under this in this header. So from here to here, it's all going to have this style. So it's going to have this specific background color. It's going to have this height. It's going to have this display. It's going to have all these things. So this is a really good way to make your app, like your website or anything, like look the way that you want it to look. Also, Bootstrap does a really good job of that. It has default templates. You can go ahead and change them in Bootstrap, but that's a little more advanced and kind of a pain, so I wouldn't recommend it. And then for React, we're going to need to know a couple things. So JSX and props. JSX is the building block of your code. It's very similar to HTML. So it's going to be this like button tag, and then props are the properties that can be passed, that are values that can be passed to your owners. So the highlighted bit is the property, so the class name and the OK on click function or on click function, and then that value is what. So in React, why it's so popular is because it's made up of components. And this is, with the introduction of frameworks, components are now the new standard, so everyone really wants to use components. So if you want to be a front-end developer, components will be your best friend. Components, they're reusable, which is why we like them so much. On the other hand, HTML is like hard-coded, and everything is very explicitly stated, and you can't really do much with it. It's not very reactive. React. And then components also create abstraction. I don't know if you learned about that quite yet, if you've gotten to app programming. Basically, you can just reuse the same thing over and over again for like any purpose. So, for example, when I was interning, I made them a couple components that they could use on like any of their websites or any of their products that they were out to that they were selling. One of them was a nice little color picker for just like changing the color of like what a component looked like for them. So maybe it was like a background color, or maybe it was text, or maybe it was like on some kind of graph or something that they needed to change. But they could use that anywhere and like just copy, just call the code, and they'd be like, oh, okay, we'll put one here, and then you can use it. And then also in React, rendering is a big deal. So rendering is the process of showing each component, and every component must render. Otherwise, it will break the whole application. So I'll show you that in a minute. And then when a process has a new state, it will re-render. So if anything changes, it'll update and be like, oh, okay, something happened, we gotta change this. So back to this app.js. Let's say we want to add a button in here with this. And then we can give it a string value to display. We'll just call it. So this is what's going to display on the button right here. And if we save that, also another advantage of React is that whenever you save something, it will just automatically re-render. And then you don't have to usually refresh the page, but it's being a little silly. Interesting. I don't know why it's doing like this, but we'll continue on. Oh, it's still compiling, that's why. That would be it. There we go. And then once it's compiled, we can see we have a little click me button. We could change this with the CSS, but we're not going to because we have other things to do today. And then also we could add like an on value or an on click and have that button do something. So we do on click. Actually, I'm just going to be smart and copy paste. There's a lot of angle brackets and parentheses that you need to look out for in React and JavaScript in general, so just be aware. I think I messed something up, so we're just going to not do that then. But I do have something else for y'all today. We do have a nice little tic-tac-toe game that I made earlier. Actually, I didn't. I copied off a tutorial, and I was like, I'm going to just explain this because it's late. It was late last night when I was doing this, by the way. And I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? And also, I am very not good at coding live. As you just saw, I make a lot of mistakes, so I'd rather just do this and then just like explain it to you what it does, what's happening. So for this tic-tac-toe game, I'll show you the finished product if I can hold this up a little higher. So you can do X, O, and then of the winner. So it's a reactive little component right there, obviously, why it's called React. So you can click it, it'll do something, and it'll like check and make sure that either someone's won, someone hasn't, and then whose turn it is, obviously. And then, okay. So we're gonna look at this first function, square. So square takes in props. Props is the value that can be passed. So that's why we have this on-click props, and then like if it's clicked, it'll go to on-click and it'll do something. It'll pass that value. And then for board, board is going to extend React component, which is down here. So the difference between a class and a function is a class does need this constructor bit right here, which is why functions are more like widely used, but I wanted to show you all the difference. And there's a lot less code in a function. I honestly think it's like a little easier, but you can make some easy mistakes with doing class. So on this board, it's going to do that constructor of props, and then it's going to make an array for the tic-tac-toe board, 9 obviously, because 9 squares. There we go. And then if it's clicked, it will do handle on click. So on handle on click, it'll be like, whose turn is it, X or O? If it's X, it'll put an X there. If it's O, it'll put an O there. And then for square, it's going to be each of those individual squares. So they're all basically buttons. And then if it does something, if it clicks, it'll do something. And then this is the render. This is the render that like renders everything that you see right here. So it'll render this winner and this whole board. So that's what this constant winner is. So it'll look at this winner right here and see if it's true or false or what's happening there. And then also it'll do the next player if it's not in the winner state. This right here, this return is going to be all for that board. So all 9 of these, and then every square, it'll do 1 row, and then another row, each of 3, so we mix 3 by 3. And then the game is what is, oh, that is the wrong one. Wait. Looks like, it looks like I did not finish the game, but it still works. How interesting. This must be if I wanted to go back. But for class game, it's just going to look at the game and the game board and just kind of render it out, which is why you see all these divs and all these boards and then your list. This would be for if you wanted to add some additional functionality and have it maybe like right here and do like player 1's move was this, player 2 moves was this. But in this case, I didn't add it because I, again, was a little out of time last night. And then this right here is going to be what renders that whole thing. So it'll call the root, which is the root component, and it'll try and render that and get that root. So, and then here is the function to calculate the winners. So you have like every possible way of getting that tic-tac-toe, whether it's like all 3 on the top, which is right here. So it's like square 1 or square 0, 1, and 2. Or if you're doing like up and down or diagonal. So these are all your possible winning spaces if you have all of this correct. So this will just check it and be like, if it doesn't have anything, or if it's, sorry. So it'll check every like row line by line and be like, okay, does it have anything in there? What's happening? Is it true? Are they all equal? No, yes. If not, then it's just going to give it a null value in here. Not that you see that, but in the back end, it'll just give it a null if it's not an extra null in there. And then that is basically it. So then you get this nice little winner O because we had this. And then if you want to play again, just go ahead and refresh it. We could make a refresh functionality in here where I was missing that code, but say love you. That is about all I have for y'all. I do have another thing that I could explain, but I feel like that would just get a little convoluted. It is like a little to-do app thing, but we can go ahead and do that if y'all want. If not, we can do questions. To-do list? to do the to-do list. Okay, to-do list. It's not on here because close that. There we go. Let me go ahead and get rid of these. Don't say that. Okay, so now I did the same thing with that create React app. So then I got this kind of basic to-do. There you go. Basic to-do like package that has all your node modules, your public and your source. But I did add a couple more. I added list item and form. So we're gonna go into the index and be like, oh look, it's calling main, it wants to render main. I mean app, sorry. So we go into app. This is quite a bit. So it's going to import all these things from React. These are hooks, useState and useEffect. List item is from that file list item. Form is also from another form JS file. So initially you're going to do a task. Actually, I'll run this so that you know what it looks like. If I can get another terminal open. But you'll have an initial task in there that's just example. It's not done. We need to do it. And then in this function for to-do app, it has two hooks. You have to-do, you have your to-do for your tasks, and then your input values. So hooks, it has two things. It has your initial input, which we'll just look at the bottom one, for input value, which is nothing originally. And then set input is a function. So anytime you'll type in, anytime you type in something on that to-do app, it'll be like, oh, okay, I gotta do that set function, that set input value. Oh, that's what we back over here. So the useEffect hook, it basically works as a component did mount and did update. So it checks, did something happen? We have to do something? Okay. So that's what this is all about right here. Let's see if there we go. There we go. So we have this example of a task. Let's say it's completed. It'll do that. And if we want to remove it, we can do that. If we just don't care about it at all anymore, we can just go ahead and do remove. And then handle on submit. If it, like whenever you're doing this and you're typing in this thing, that's what it's looking for. And then once you add to do, that's the submit basically. If when it's there originally, it'll have this little value of task name is required, and it like wants you to input something. And then it's looking for the input value, and then it's going to set it to false, that it's not done, because you can't. Why would you put something on a to-do list that you've already done? Unless you want to get yourself ahead, which I appreciate that. And then handle this button click. It'll handle the button clicks of whether it's remove or completed, and then it'll go and do if it needs to be crossed out or if it needs to be removed. This is going to be where all the this look like this all of that is rendering from. So fragment is just kind of another tag that you can use. Form is also another tag. And then on submit, if it does on submit, then it's going to go ahead and handle that submit and go ahead and put it in that list. Same thing for on change. If it has an input value, it's going to go ahead and set it as that input value. And then this is the map because it is a map of like whether you've done it or not, and then the name of like what the task is. And then we can go ahead and look at form.js, which is basically just looking for that on submit and be like, okay, did they submit it? Yes. Then I'm going to go ahead and do this, and then I'm going to put it on the list. And then list item is very much the same, but instead it's looking for, oh, did I do complete? If so, then do the line through, which is what this is right here. And then if not, go ahead and do completed. All right, do you have any questions about React or anything, or being, we can have a discussion. Yes, they're very much highly desired. If you know React and JavaScript, a lot of people will want to hire you because they're like, oh my gosh. I would recommend TypeScript though. That's a personal preference for me. It is the same as JavaScript, only it's like highly typed, so you can't just have any as a type. It'll get upset. So that makes it a lot more easy to not do some funky errors that you can do in JavaScript because it has that any type. Um, but that's just personal preference. A lot of people still use JavaScript over TypeScript in the industry. But yeah. Hooks are more of a recent development in React. They're pretty new within the last like couple years. It might not even been that long. But classes just have like a lot of extra code that like you can always like mess up on, and also hooks are a lot more streamlined and they're easier to use in my opinion, just because it is just like this, and then you can be like, oh, okay, I want to use that set to dos. Mm-hmm. Yeah, as long as I don't think I said this, but as long as it has this export right here, then anywhere in this source file can call the to do app with it's being exported. So some other file can use it, which is how we're getting form and list item in here, and then you have to import it as seen above. Only at the top, and then you can just use whatever component you're like looking for, or whatever function that you need. I only worked really with my internship with it, so it wasn't anything like too wild. I don't know. The thing that gave me the most trouble was that color picker that I was talking about earlier, because hex colors are like wild, and you have so many different ways you can input a color into a computer. So you have that and like HSV values and like you do RGBA, which is like for transparency, which is kind of a pain to like handle as an edge case. But nothing too wild. Leah might also have some fun things if you want to ask me about it after. You could use Bootstrap to make it look good and just throw out CSS like almost entirely. Bootstrap is like a whole other like library though, so you have a trade-off with that. CSS is okay. You can't do like the most pretty things with it, but Bootstrap really like helps you on there, in my opinion. Yeah. I so this happened to me. I would say go HTML first and understand what all those tags mean, what it'll do, and be like, okay, this kind of like makes sense in my head. And then once you do that, JavaScript can like add actual like functionality to that. And then React, I would think, would be like one of the later steps. But honestly, like I did it out of order, and it was like kind of a pain. So I would recommend doing HTML, JavaScript, and then React, because React is a library, so you do need to know JavaScript first. Yeah. Stack Overflow, always a good choice. The React docs, very helpful. JavaScript docs, pretty good. I like TypeScript. Their documentation, pretty solid. But you know, Google is your friend. Y'all know this, your CS people, I imagine. Anyone else? Yeah. I think the To Do app is like pretty good at like testing your knowledge on like passing values and be like, okay, I want it here, I'm gonna do something there. I'd say that's like pretty simple, pretty easy. It's not that many lines of code. What do I have? Like 60, and then add like maybe another 20 with the other files, or another 40, so maybe like 100 total. And like once you understand like what everything's doing, it's like not that bad, I promise. But you could also just like do whatever your heart desires. If you want to make like a blog and just like kind of do that, or you can, you can just make like anything you want. The sky's the limit. Seems like we're about done with questions. You want to question it? Oh yeah, NCC, NSC. NSA is having Codebreaker. Please look it up. I was just told to say this. I don't know. Okay. Okay, NSA-codebreaker.org. Okay. You have it on stream now, so it's here forever. Well, thank you. The finest. Now we have that on video too. I mean, y'all are free to go unless you want to come ask questions or anything. Always down to help. Always in the ACM room. Just knock on the door. Someone will be in there.